Hello guys, in this particular video we'll be looking at the various selectors that we have. Let's say for example, now I have H1 that says how are you, and I now have another still H1 again that says H1, but in this case this one will now say hello world. Now if I go to my external style sheet, the style.css file, and then do H1 and then give it color, the color blue, you discover that when I save, refresh and open on the browser, you will discover that the two of them will carry the color blue. Now what if I want how are you to be another color, and I want hello world to be another color, not just color or another styling? How can I still do H1 and then I achieve different results? So that's what we'll be looking at in this particular aspect of our CSS course, the topic selectors, the various selectors that we have. So let's get on it right away. Now the first one we have is what we have been using all through. The first one is called element. The first one I call it element. Let me comment that. The first one I call it element. Now let me comment this out. Okay. Now this is how we comment in CSS. What you are seeing on line 2. What that means is that word element does not take effect on the browser. It doesn't take effect on the browser. It does not take effect on the browser. So that is how we comment on CSS. All right. So the first one I want us to look at is the element. For example, in that line 3, you see H1, just H1, and that's what we have been using all through, and I believe we are familiar with that. Then the next one I want us to see is the one I call element comma element. Now in element comma element, assuming you have up to 3, 4, 5 different elements, you want them to carry the same styling, you can actually say, okay, let's say for example, let's go to our HTML file and add other things. Let's say we have something like H3. In this H3 we say hey. Let's say we now have a p tag. In this p tag we say let's generate a dummy text. All right, now watch what is going to happen. Assuming I want all of them, all those tags to be on at the center, I can say h1 comma, that is why I say element comma element, h1 comma h, I think it was h3. Let's confirm that. Yes, h3, and then the p tag. So I can now say comma p tag. That means all the tags or all the elements I'm listing here, I want you guys to take this particular effect. So I can now say text align center. Now let's see what we have. I save my work, I'll go to the browser and refresh. All right, so you see all of them, they are the center, so they now take that effect. Okay, so that is what you should know for element comma element. Assuming you have up to 3, 4, 5 elements, you want them to use the same task. Instead of adding them manually one after the other, it is better you use element comma element. Then the next one I want to show you is the class. There is something called class in CSS, and if you can recall, we use it a lot with divs. So in the class, how does the class work? Let's say for example now we have something like let's say a div here, which stands for division, and then in this div we have some sort of, let's say, h2 inside h2, and in this h2 we have the text welcome. We can actually apply a class as an attribute, a class attribute, to this line 22. So we say class, that class will now give it a name, whatsoever name you want to give it. So I can call it, let's say, first. Let's just call it first. Don't forget, you can call it whatsoever you want to call it. Now, how can we style a class? How can we style a class so that it will take effect on this welcome? So when you come to the CSS, what you will do will be, you use dot or period, as you might want to call it, and then the name of that class, which was first, and then you begin to style it. So I can now say the color of that one should be red. So let's save and see what we have. Let's save and see what we have. Okay, so we have a red color. Then another one I want to show you guys quickly, because there are up to 9 of them, is the ID. ID operate just like the class, but just that you can use more than one class, and in the case of ID you can actually use only one. So let's see how the ID appears. So I'll change this to ID. All right, now let me use another div to demonstrate that. Let me just copy this and paste here. All right, so I can change this ID. I will change this place from class to ID. Then I can maybe change this ID name to second in this case. All right, so now watch, let's see how we manipulate this particular h2. So I will come here and say under that ID, while we use dot like we see in line 15 for the class, in this particular one we use the pound sign. All right, or what you call the hashtag. Then the next thing we'll do will be the name of that ID, which was what, second, and then we begin to style it. So I can give it color, maybe color brown. So let's save our work and then go to the browser and see what we have. I'll refresh. So you see we have h2 on being welcome with red color, another h2 now having a brown color. That's just one way to escape this. So you see on line 23 we have welcome, and also in line 28 we have welcome, both being wrapped with h2 tag but different styling. So that means if you go to the browser now to check, you see the first welcome is in a red color, while the second one is in a brown color. Now we have other ones in which we selector rather will be adding is what we refer to as the asterisk. This one means like everything. So let's say on our page now, let me comment this. This is how we comment things out using HTML. By commenting, I mean I don't want them to be displayed on the browser. Let me refresh so that we see what we have. This is what we have on the browser. Good. So by commenting them, I mean I don't want them to show on the browser for now. So we use this, and then that's where the opening and the closing, where I want it to stop, I will now press the closing. All right, then for the asterisk, we can say something like the asterisk, like I said, stands for everything. So let's say we have maybe an h2 tag that says welcome. Maybe we have another tag like the h4 that says hey, and the whole lot of them. Let's say we have so many tags, and then we want to style all of them at the same time. So let's say we want everything to be displayed at the center. So I can just come here and say asterisk, which stands for everything. Then whatsoever styling I give here, everything will tends to have it. So I can decide to say text align center. So let's see what we have. Then I refresh. All right, so almost everything we have will be at the center. That is how the asterisk works. Then another one which is very important I want to show you guys is the element space element. This one can be a bit tricky, so please open your mind to this. Note, it is not element comma element, but rather element space element. The major difference is that in this particular one, we don't use comma, rather we use space. So I have to remove this comma. Alright, how does this one work? This one works more like a parent and a child relationship. So let's say, for example, we have maybe a age, let's say maybe something like h3 here, h3 like the parent. Now within this h3 I now have a paragraph tag. Let's say Lauren. I'm just generating a dummy text now, and I say, look at this, h3 starts here and ends here, but has a child tag inside, a child element. So if I come here and say, I will say let me see, h3, yes. If I come here and say h3 space p, that's element space element, give me the color maybe blue. All right, let's see what we have on the browser. Let's refresh and see what we have. You see the color is actually blue. Now let's try something out. Let's say here we have another p. We have a p tag with the same dummy text. Now let's see what we have. We refresh. We find out that this particular p is not the same color, because in our previous style you discover that when once you give p a particular color, all of them will have that color. So the knowledge of selectors now helps us capture a particular thing. Let's say we have up to 2-3 p elements, but you want to capture a particular p element. This is how you can go about that. All right, another one we want to look at is the elements greater than elements. I know this can be a bit confusing, but just follow me step by step, you get it. There's another one we call element space element. All right, or element greater than element rather. So this is how this particular one appears, and the relationship too is also that of parent and a child, but in this particular one it has to do with the direct parent. What I mean by that is that, let's say for example, let me see use what we had here. Let's say we have the h3 now and the p. The relationship is that p is actually the direct child to the h3. So assuming we have something like maybe a span here, span, and then let's copy some words and put in there, or not even a span. Let's avoid this inline. Let's say we have something like within here we have maybe an h2, something like let's say we have a span here, Now watch what I'm about to do, please. All right, let me just copy the cut this text and put here, so that I will use that to demonstrate what I want to do. Now h3 is the direct parent to p, while p is the direct parent to span. So span here is more like, should I say, a grandchild to the h3. So when it comes to element greater than element, it has to do with the parent and the child directly. So for example, I will say, in this case I can say p greater than span, which means check within p any span you see that is the direct child of the p element. You should actually change it to the color maybe brown. So let's refresh and see what we have. So you see this has actually changed to brown. All right, assuming I say let's say I cut this out and then I say this, I want to use this now, then I say h3 greater than maybe span. It won't work. Let's refresh that and see what we have. it won't work because span is not a direct child of h3, rather it is a grandchild. But if I do like this, h3 space span, it will work because h3, that's element space element, means check within h3 whosoever you see that that is there and carries this name, give it that particular design. You see it actually works. So that's the differences between element space element and element greater than element. Now in element space element, anything within that particular, let's say that particular parent, like in this case now this h3, anything you want to pick, be it a child, a grandchild or whatsoever, it will work. But in element greater than element, it has to do with the child and the direct parent, not the grandparent. That's just the major differences there. All right, let's proceed. Another one I would like to show us is the element plus element. In the element plus element, it is more like neighborhood. So let me say h1. Now note the differences. This one is actually is not within the h3, but rather, let me use the word maybe welcome again. It is not within h3, but it is immediately after the closing tag of the h3. So it's more like a neighbor. So I would say in this particular one, let's paste the name. I'll copy this and then I paste. So we have element plus element. So in this particular one, I will be saying h3 plus h1. Let's see what we have. Then the color should be maybe green. All right, let's refresh and see what we have. Now the color of this particular one is green, so it means if go and check there is h3 in this our work, then after the closing h3 you see h1. So capture that particular h1 and give it this design. You find out that if you have another h1 somewhere, it will not work. That's how powerful the knowledge of selector is. Then another one I want to show us is the hover. Another one I want to show us is the hover. All right, how does that particular one work? So let's say for example this h1, I come here and say whenever our mouse is close to the is hovering on the h1, this is what I want you to do. Let's do that. So I call this hover, and this is how we play with it. You can just say h1, then you put this, and then you say hover. How does the hover work? That means we say when once our mouse over a particular thing, this is what we want you to do. So let's say for example we have an h1, this is how we write it, then colon, we use the keyword hover, and then this is what we want it we want to see when once our mouse touches h1. So we want a border solid. I can even change this to dash if I want to, dash, and then text should move to the end. The color can change to whatsoever color I want. Now let's see how that appears on the browser. This is the h1, so I'll refresh. Now when once I take my mouse down here, you see it actually moves some sort of an animation. So that is how that one works. That is how the hover work. All right, then I have a little assignment for you. I want you to make a research about the importance this particular selector that tends to break the cascading CSS cascading rule. Make a research about this and post it on the community. Thank you very much for watching this particular series. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.